guys, I'm Liza Wood, this is my channel, and let's talk about the gown of a princess. One born of enchantment, grace, and legend, fit for a swan, woven with care, and made specifically for my cousin. Join me on this grand tale of creation where fashion and fantasy intertwine. And of course I'm talking about the promised Swan Princess gown that I started in January and finished in January to wear to MegaCon, but only was just able to finish the YouTube video. So sorry it's a little later than I wanted it to be, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the Swan Princess gown. Now, the reason for the Swan Princess gown specifically is my cousin asked for it, and she has beautiful long blonde hair, so she wouldn't have to wear a wig or anything to fit the character, and that is perfect. So it's off to figuring out what the plan will be. It took me some time to decide on exactly what historical fashion I wanted to stick with. As you know, I try to do historical patterns while still keeping the movie or animation vibes as close to film correct as I can. This particular dress was a little bit difficult because I couldn't quite decide what history of fashion it was really based on. I think what really threw me off was the sleeves, but I decided that the sleeves are fantasy only. They're not historically accurate at all, so I just decided not to even look at the sleeves and just look at the gown. And in doing so, I also came across Morgan Donner's medieval kirtle pattern that she did in a video, which will of course be linked down below. And I thought that was the perfect dress and pattern for my purposes because it's a pretty easy pattern to make. Which is good because I had planned on using a store-bought pattern so I wouldn't have to make a new pattern for her because I didn't think I'd have enough time. But I can't use store-bought patterns because I don't even know why. So I thought the kirtle would be perfect. It's a relatively simple pattern and I wouldn't have to do too much alterations to the bodice block I made in the coat video, also linked down below. So I could immediately get on my way and hopefully finish in a week or so. Little did I know this was going to be far more complicated than I had expected. So of course the first step is to alter the bodice block that I made in the coat video. I did not catch this on camera, or if I did, I lost it. But honestly, I think you're probably better off checking out Morgan Donner's video to get a good pattern. She creates her kirtle from scratch, whereas I use the bodice block and I simply moved the darts from the center and put them on the edges. But when I was doing so, I was making sure that it looked similar to Morgan Donner's pattern. So I would check her video out for the actual pattern. Don't worry about all that stuff. I have a problem. So I was cutting out the pieces for the kirtle for the Swan Princess dress Morgan Donner's version of it, she does the piecing is period thing where she added on a triangle at the bottoms of the dress to make it have more volume. I had originally planned on doing that. I have cut my pieces so that I will have that V at the bottom that I need to make. I am now looking at the fabric I have left, and I don't have enough to make the V's, these triangles. So this is all I have left, which is about a yard of fabric by how, and even it was cut crookedly, so like I don't even have a full yard, but I have about a yard of fabric, which hopefully will be enough for the sleeves. And then I also have these kind of like pieces of the cutout that are technically long enough, but I don't know that they would hit the fabric correctly. So I don't think that these will work. They're just not gonna have enough volume. So I have two options. The first option is to go to the store and get more fabric, which of course means that I have to stop working on it and wait until tomorrow, where I can go to the store and get more fabric. Or the second option is to cut the fabric with less volume in the skirt, but it's gonna be a lot less volume. Like there's gonna be hardly any volume in this skirt. And I kind of feel like the swishiness of these dresses is what makes them princessy. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check the Swan Princess dress, because I think that Odette's dress might not be as voluminous as you would normally think of a princess dress. I think hers is pretty straight up and down, so I might be able to get away with not doing the full volume, but I will have to check because I don't know what to do. Alright, so I just checked. It looks like the original animation of the Swan Princess, her skirt is very A-line, doesn't really have all that much volume in it. There's some swishiness at the bottom of the dress, but not really anything higher than that. Some of the new versions of the dress do have it like a little bit more volume. I think there was a like sequel or something that had a different princess that was the main character, but Odette was a part of it. I don't know, I can't really tell, and I wasn't willing to go into too much detail. In that one, her dress is a lot more voluminous, but in the original, it looked like it was pretty thin. So I think I can get away with just making it a thinner skirt. I don't want to, but honestly, I don't really want to have to go buy more fabric either, so this is gonna be what I'm gonna do. With my pieces cut out, I began assembling the dress. I sewed all seams completely closed except for the back, where I left an opening in the bodice for a grommet closure. As I worked, I realized my fashion fabric was a bit too thin and would need a lining. The only suitable fabric I had on hand was my mock-up cotton, so I decided to use that. I cut and sewed the lining, although I did wind up making it shorter than the fashion fabric, if only because I don't have all that much lining fabric left. Attaching the lining to the fashion fabric was straightforward. I just joined them at the open back section, which also gave my grommets a sturdier base. Then came my biggest challenge, the collar, or I think it might also be called a yoke. This should have been simple, but in my past experiences, I've never quite managed to get yolks to sit perfectly. I'm hoping this time will be different. I referenced a Victorian pattern from Patterns of Fashion 2 and modified it. I marked out where I thought the yoke would sit, extended lines through the shoulders, and calculated how much fabric I need for the pleats to recreate Odette's signature look. After a great deal of folding, adjusting, and refolding, I finally had a workable pattern. Captured! So, I have been putting off working on the Swan Princess gown for about a week now. I had good reason. I was doing overtime at work and didn't feel like actually working on it. And also, I'm kind of stuck. Now that I have the pattern for the collar, I have realized that the pattern for the collar is going to go kind of straight across. And the way that I was planning on doing it is I have the shoulder pieces of my pattern that will... About to have a tail in my face. Okay. That's my food, thank you. I have to keep my food away from my cats. The shoulder pieces of my pattern, which I had always intended on in some way covering up, because the sleeve of the actual gown in the movie, it looks like it's just the green at the shoulder cap. So it's pretty much the whole shoulder is the sleeve. So whatever I had put on of the bodice for the shoulder is going to be hidden in some way. However, I wanted it to remain there because I knew that I was going to want to gather down the sleeve into the shoulder, and if I were to remove the shoulder of the bodice, I'm afraid that I won't be able to have a good structure for the sleeve. Now, the problem is the way that I have the collar set up, it's supposed to be going straight across, which cuts off the shoulder of the bodice. In order for it to wrap around and go to the inside of the collar, I need to cut off the shoulder of the bodice. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to deal with it. Honestly, I'm thinking probably my best bet is just gonna be to remove the shoulder of the bodice and then just like make a ribbon that's the right size for the shoulder of the bodice. But I'm still kind of about it. I'm just like, I don't like the idea of undoing something I've already done and trying to figure out how to replace it. But I also can't figure out how to do what I want without removing it. So I'm just kind of confused right now. That's a good way to put it. So it's midday. I really wanted to finish this dress today, and I haven't even started on the sleeves or anything because I've just been muddling on how to do this particular collar. I think what I need to do is just cut out the collar, because I haven't actually done that. I've only cut out the pattern. If I cut out the collar, I can place it against my bodice and play with it and see maybe how I can make it work in the easiest way possible. So that is what I will do once I tell myself that I actually can get up and do it. Cutting it out in velvet presented another challenge. Velvet shifts unpredictably, so I cut each piece separately to avoid misalignment. I transferred my fold lines, only to realize that they were inside out. It took some trial and error, but eventually I flipped them correctly. Refolded the pleats, and secured them with large whip stitches to prevent shifting. Since machine sewing velvet can be risky, I opted for careful hand stitching. To further stabilize the dress, I added boning channels along the back for structure. In my excitement, I forgot to insert the boning before sewing, but in the end, it wasn't crucial. As far as I can tell, kirtles typically don't include boning anyway. Attaching the collar proved another challenge. I initially attempted to machine sew it, but found the results unsatisfactory, so I carefully stitched it in place by hand. I used a running back stitch to maintain flexibility while ensuring the collar remained secure. To ensure a seamless fit, I carefully cut and repositioned the shoulder bands before finally stitching everything down. With the collar secured, I moved on to the sleeves. Using my sleeve back from Odette's coat, I split the pattern into 3 sections. The top, which was 2 inches below the armpit, the middle, which was about 6 inches, and the bottom, which was everything else. Following an excellent puff sleeve tutorial linked below, I adjusted the pattern for extra volume while ensuring a snug fit at the arm side. So I just finished cutting out the sleeves, and that is the last thing I need to cut out of the white fabric, which is good because I don't have enough to do anything else with the white fabric. I am all on scraps with the white fabric. I finished the sleeve edges before assembly, then sewed all pieces into tubes. To distribute gathers evenly, I painstakingly divided each piece into 16 sections, aligning them with corresponding sections on the main sleeve. This process was tedious, but ensured a balanced, structured puff. Inserting the sleeves, I trimmed excess sleeve allowance, notched the fabric for ease, and tacked everything down by hand. It wasn't the prettiest internal finish, but it was effective, and none of it showed from the outside. So it's Sunday morning, and I need to have the dress done by Wednesday, because that's when the con is, well, at least when I'm traveling for the con. And I also have other prep work and other cosplays that I need to fix up and get ready to go to the con as well. So I am currently in my warm fuzzy coat and my warm fuzzy socks, and I really need to get started. The one sleeve is done, mostly. I still gotta put the strip on. But one sleeve is done. I have the other sleeve to do. I need to make the strips to put on the sleeves. I need to make a sash, and I need to put a closure in, and I need to hem the skirt. And all of that needs to happen today so that I can have the rest of the week for prepping for the other stuff. So let's get started. At last, the dress was complete and just in time for the convention, and my cousin looked stunning in it. Although there was a few fit issues. My cousin, who had never had to measure herself before, didn't actually know exactly where to measure herself, and so she had given me some measurements that were slightly too small and somewhat in the wrong place. And I also forgot to add in ease, which I am very bad about. I always forget ease. So bad about ease. So the dress was way too small in the back. It pulled and gathered weirdly, but luckily it wasn't very noticeable in the front. And she has long, beautiful blonde hair that covered the back of the dress when she wasn't wearing the coat. And also she was wearing a white corset style bra that you would normally wear with a wedding dress, so there was no risk of indecency. I hope to readjust it so that she can wear it in the future without those fit issues, but unfortunately Joann's has officially said that they are closing, and I don't have enough fabric for the dress. So I have to go to Joann's pretty quickly, but they are pretty far away from me and I don't have enough time to go to them until this weekend. We'll see if I can even get the fabric to fix the dress. And with that, another sewing journey comes to an end. Thank you for traveling with me through the realm of enchanted threads and legends. May the magic of creation continue to inspire your dreams. If you would like to join me on another adventure in the future, I hope you will subscribe, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I hope that you will leave them down below in the comment section. May your path be ever graced by the light of legend.